In the 3rd year of my coercive possession of Shen Qingye, he died in a car crash, saving me. The doctor said he had lost the will to live. Later, while sorting through his belongings, I found a diary. Tucked inside were all the receipts for the help Shen Qingye had secretly given his one true love over the years. But on the last page, he had written, "Sheng Ying, I hate you the most. Sheng Ying is me." So after I was reborn, the first thing I did was tear up the contract Shen Qingye had just signed. The 17-year-old boy quietly watched the pieces flutter to the ground. After a long moment, he curled his lips into a sarcastic smile. What? Did the young miss finally realize that making me sell myself for 10 years isn't enough? I hadn't fully come to my senses yet. Tearing up the contract had been a subconscious act. 10 years isn't enough. How about 20, 30, or a lifetime? Seeing me just stare at him blankly, a flash of understanding crossed Shen Qingye's eyes. He picked up the pen again, unperturbed. "Is the new contract ready? I have to go to my part-time job this afternoon. I can't be late." His expression was as calm as if he were discussing the weather. I blurted out, "There is no new contract." Only after the words left my mouth did I realize how hoarse my voice was. Licking my dry lips, I issued a command out of habit. "Shen Qingye, I want some water." In the 3 years we were married, he had taken meticulous care of me. But as soon as I spoke, my eyes met his dark, mocking gaze, and I remembered. The person before me was not the Shen Qingye from years later, who had learned to feign being tamed by me. My throat tightened. I wanted to explain, "I'm not. So you've found a new way to torment me." Shen Qingye, however, was used to it. He stood up to get me water, paused, then added some cool water to it. "It doesn't matter if you want to change the terms of the contract. Don't worry, I'll do what I promised President Sheng." The hand holding the glass had well-defined knuckles. Yet when my fingertips accidentally brushed against it, he snatched it back as if in extreme revulsion. This subtle movement made my nose sting. The water was the perfect temperature. I used the motion of lowering my head to drink to quickly hide my reddening eyes. Shen Qingye was indeed a man of his word. Even later, when my father suddenly fell ill, and Shen Qingye single-handedly propped up the entire Sheng Corporation, he never once thought of taking the opportunity to break the contract. Even when that car crash happened, his first instinct was to shield me tightly with his body. The doctor said Shen Qingye had no will to live. So this man with no will to live had long ago prepared a will, leaving all his assets to me. Shen Qingye was a good man. He just didn't love me. Fortunately, I had a chance to start over. "There is no new contract," I said, putting down the glass and repeating myself. "I will never force you to sign any contract again." A long silence. Shen Qingye stared at me for a while, then a look of understanding dawned on his face. He took a card from his pocket and placed it in front of me. "This is from President Sheng. I haven't touched the money inside." "That's not what I mean." In my panic, I grabbed his hand. I knew what this money meant to Shen Qingye. A gambling-addicted father, a critically ill grandfather. In my past life, I had used these things to force him to sign that 10-year contract of indentured servitude. You can take my dad's money, and you can sign a contract. I mean, a normal contract. My dad will invest in you. You can choose to work for the Sheng Corporation after graduation, or you can pay the money back later. But I don't need you by my side anymore, and I won't force you to like me anymore. My vision started to blur. I kept my head down, not realizing my grip on Shen Qingye's hand was getting tighter and tighter. Until he said coldly, "Your hand." "Hi." Before I could react, the surprise in Shen Qingye's eyes quickly faded into a cold stillness. He spoke with a detached expression. "What kind of act is the young miss putting on this time? Or are you trying to ruin this last job of mine, so I have to keep revolving around you?" Staring at Shen Qingye's earlobes, which were red with anger, I opened my mouth but was too dejected to speak, because these were indeed things I had done in the past. It was love at first sight for me with Shen Qingye. So when I accidentally found out he and his childhood friend, Lu Qiachu, were applying to the same university, I panicked and used that contract to tie him to my side. I've been domineering and possessive since I was a child. I always thought that if enough time passed, Shen Qingye might come to like me. But he died, and that diary still contained the words, "I hate you." I won't do that anymore. Why should I believe you? Because I don't like you anymore. As I said those words, the tightness in my chest seemed to ease considerably. I forced a smile, speaking with utmost seriousness. "Shen Qingye, I won't like you anymore, and I won't force you anymore." Shen Qingye looked at me, his eyes swirling with emotions I couldn't decipher. He didn't say another word before he left. He probably still didn't believe me. The card was left behind. After some thought, I took the card to my father. After repeatedly confirming that I wasn't just playing hard to get, my dad agreed to continue funding Shen Qingye. But he wanted to talk to Shen Qingye first. I breathed a sigh of relief. For the next few days, I forced myself not to seek out Shen Qingye. The advanced class and the regular class were on different floors anyway. It was normal not to run into each other all day. But to outsiders, it looked like I was deliberately avoiding him. Many people speculated privately about what kind of drama I was staging. Even Zai Yuanzhang couldn't resist coming to find me. Give your uncle the inside scoop. How are you planning to mess with that Shen Qingye kid next? His eyes gleamed with the mischievous light of someone eager to stir up trouble. No one at school knew that, by seniority, I was supposed to call Zai Yuanzhang my grand uncle. But we'd been partners in crime since we were little, so we never bothered with such formalities. I rolled my eyes at him. I'm not messing with him. Something's wrong, very wrong. Zai Yuanzhang's expression turned strange. He slung an arm around my neck, lowering his voice. Before, whenever I mentioned Shen Qingye, your eyes would light up bright enough to be my flashlight. Why do you look so down now? Did that kid bully you? His tone grew fierce toward the end. He didn't bully me, I've just seen the light. I pushed his hand away, but I keenly sensed a heavy gaze locked on me. Yet a look around revealed nothing out of the ordinary. What's wrong? Zai Yuanzhang leaned closer. He suddenly paused, rubbing the back of his head. Why do I feel a chill down my spine? Wait, what did you say about seeing the light? I don't like Shen Qingye anymore. Oh, you don't like Shen, you don't like him anymore. His voice shot up. Zai Yuanzhang. Just as I was wondering how to shut down his overly dramatic reaction, a voice I knew to my bones came from behind me. I didn't turn around, but my body tensed up first. Zai Yuanzhang leaned his head out from behind my shoulder, annoyed. What do you want, calling me your dad? A cold gaze swept over the hand resting on my shoulder, then quickly retracted. Shen Qingye, holding a stack of homework, said expressionlessly, Ms. Cheng wants to see you in her office. Zai Yuanzhang's face changed instantly. He hastily threw a "let's go home together after school tonight" over his shoulder and abandoned me without a second thought. But Shen Qingye stood his ground, his unhurried gaze falling on my face. This was the first time we had met since that day. Worried that Shen Qingye would think my feelings for him hadn't died and that I was just playing hard to get, I decisively turned to leave. Sheng. I left in a hurry, not hearing the half-syllable that was cut short. His Adam's apple bobbed. Shen Qingye swallowed the rest of the call back, but the gaze that fell on me grew even more obscure and profound. I had thought that this time, Shen Qingye and I would drift apart, but I never expected him to agree to tutor me. The reason was simple enough. President Sheng said your fundamentals are weak, so he's paying an exceptionally high tutoring fee. Shen Qingye placed the test paper he brought on my desk and lifted his eyelids. Didn't you say you wouldn't like me anymore, and were going to study seriously? I was rendered speechless. Then, a little exasperated, I asked, then why are you the one tutoring me? I had just spent so much effort getting used to a life without Shen Qingye. I'm in dire need of money. Compared to other jobs, tutoring you allows me to review the material again. Shen Qingye looked at me calmly. President Sheng said he found other tutors for you before, but you didn't like any of them. If my tutoring is ineffective, or if you really can't accept me as your tutor, he will fire me all the same. His words made me deflate like a punctured balloon. I knew Shen Qingye had been working part-time jobs outside of school, spinning like a top. After once seeing him collapse from anemia due to exhaustion, I had used heavy-handed tactics to ruin several of his jobs. In my past life, I had also suggested that Shen Qingye tutor me, but he had refused without hesitation. Now he had agreed. Was it because my affection was a burden to him? My heart ached out of habit, then finally settled into calm. I pulled out a chair and deliberately sat far away from him. In a muffled voice, I said, then let's start. First, do this diagnostic test. Shen Qingye pushed the paper in front of me, his voice a little lower than usual. I said no more and buried my head in the test. The room fell silent, leaving only the sound of faint breathing. I forced myself to calm down, until Shen Qingye stood behind me. The clean, almost sharp scent of soap instantly filled my nose, enveloping me. My hand, clutching the pen, froze. I uncontrollably thought of my past life. After we got married, Shen Qingye had always been lukewarm towards me. Only during moments of intimacy would he show a rare ferocity. His warm breath would fall on the side of my neck. He would nibble and grind at the soft flesh there, but he would cover my eyes with his hand. So from beginning to end, I could never see his face. Thinking back now, it was probably because he didn't want to see me. As my mind wandered, I unconsciously chewed on my pen. Suddenly, a hand with a prominent wrist bone appeared in my field of vision. Shen Qingye tapped on the desk, his face expressionless. You wrote D for a fill-in-the-blank question. I lowered my head in shame and corrected it. Fortunately, I managed to stumble through the rest of the test, guessing my way to the end. Then, with a heavy heart, I handed the paper over. Shen Qingye glanced at it, his brow furrowed almost imperceptibly. I guiltily looked away. Just then, my phone vibrated. Shen Qingye was grading the paper with his head down. I glanced at it, then turned my back to him and secretly opened WeChat. It was a message from Zai Yuanzhang. He was gleefully telling me he had taken care of things for me and asking what I planned to give him as a thank you gift. Me, what thank you gift? What did you take care of for me? Zai Yuanzhang, what kind of trouble did you get into now? My heart leaped. I suddenly remembered what happened a few days ago. Zai Yuanzhang still didn't believe I no longer liked Shen Qingye. I hadn't bothered to explain much, thinking that time would prove it. However, the truth was, when I saw Lu Qiachu walking beside Shen Qingye with a shy smile, I couldn't help but be lost in a daze. I knew Lu Qiachu was different to Shen Qingye. He liked quiet, yet he could tolerate Lu Qiachu chattering endlessly in his ear. His only friend at school was Lu Qiachu. They had promised to go to the same university, but I had still used unscrupulous means to snatch Shen Qingye away. Perhaps they were talking about something interesting. Lu Qiachu tugged on Shen Qingye's sleeve, swaying it gently as if acting cute. But she froze when she saw me. Her face turned pale, and she hid behind Shen Qingye. Looking at Lu Qiachu, who was like a delicate white flower, I was inexplicably reminded of our past life. On the day of Shen Qingye's funeral, Lu Qiachu had come to cause a scene. She tearfully accused me of being the real murderer who caused his death. Then, using her identity as the torn-apart first love, she instigated a wave of online bullying, trying to force me to give up Shen Qingye's inheritance. In the end, it was I who produced the large sum receipts Shen Qingye had hidden in his diary, exposing Lu Qiachu's hypocritical true nature. For the past 6 months, she had been constantly asking Shen Qingye for money. Lu Qiachu was not as innocent as she appeared. Realizing this, I subconsciously frowned and couldn't help but take a few steps forward. Can I help you? A cold, distant voice pulled me back to my senses. Shen Qingye looked at me calmly. He glanced at Zai Yuanzhang beside me, then discreetly moved to stand in front of Lu Qiachu. I opened my mouth, but it took a long moment before I could manage a low, "It's nothing." I suddenly realized that Shen Qingye would not believe my words, especially since Lu Qiachu was his one true love. This realization made a certain part of my heart ache terribly. I didn't even notice when they left. At that moment, Zai Yuanzhang nudged my shoulder and gave me a series of winks. "Don't you worry, my dear niece, your uncle will definitely help you." He patted his chest, vowing with confidence. I was baffled but didn't pay it much mind. Only now, recalling it, the feeling of unease grew stronger and stronger. Zai Yuanzhang sent another voice message. I was about to convert it to text when I heard Shen Qingye's voice from behind me. "What are you doing?" I jumped, fumbling to turn off my phone, but accidentally hit play. The next second, an exaggerated voice exploded in the silent study. "You know who I saw? Lu Qiachu. She was working there too. But don't you worry, Wying, I already had the shop fire Shen Qingye, completely cutting off any possibility of him contacting Lu Qiachu. From now on, he can only revolve around you." The phone was gently taken from my hand. Shen Qingye looked down, his expression unreadable. All I could do was listen with a heart full of ashes, as Zai Yuanzhang's triumphant voice echoed in the room. I tried to explain, I didn't ask him to do that, but my voice grew smaller and smaller. Finally, the room fell into a dead silence. "Is this what you meant by?" The phone was placed on the desk, making a soft clatter. Shen Qingye took half a step back and said softly, "You won't force me anymore." His tone was ambiguous. I knew he had misunderstood again, so I took a deep breath and met his gaze frankly. Believe it or not, I really didn't ask Zai Yuanzhang to do this. On the contrary, if I had known beforehand, I would have stopped him no matter what. His dark lashes drooped. Shen Qingye didn't speak. Until I added, he must have misunderstood something. But no matter what, Zai Yuanzhang did this because of me, so I apologize to you on his behalf. As for the losses you've incurred, I can also compensate you on his. On his behalf, a ripple disturbed the calm well of his eyes. Shen Qingye gave a half smile. Young Miss Sheng is quite righteous. I froze. After 3 years of marriage, I knew this was a sign he was getting angry. Just as I was about to say something, Shen Qingye looked away. He returned to his original spot and picked up the half-graded test paper. Your fundamentals are indeed a bit weak. Let's start with the simplest concepts. I frowned. Aren't we discussing what Zai Yuanzing did? Tutoring is charged by the hour. We've already wasted 7 minutes. I'll make up for it after we finish, or I can refund you for that portion of the time. Shen Qingye maintained a cold, business-like demeanor. Since I've accepted President Sheng's money, this is my job. Don't worry, I won't bring any personal emotions into my work, nor am I. He paused, his eyes dimming for a moment. The kind of person who gives up halfway. His voice was very soft. A sudden knock on the door masked the second half of his sentence. It was the housekeeper, bringing a fruit platter. I took the platter, and after closing the door, I turned my head and asked, "What did you just say?" "Nothing." Shen Qingye quickly returned to normal. He opened a textbook, not even looking up. Let's continue. Just as Shen Qingye had said, he was indeed very serious about completing this job. And I seriously fulfilled my promise. We had no communication outside of studying. When we occasionally ran into each other at school, we would just walk past each other, deliberately avoiding eye contact. I was starting to feel relieved, until my deskmate, who was also the student council president, reminded me that I had student council duty. This time, it's your turn to be on duty in the office with Shen Qingye. Meng Ningxi pushed up her slipping glasses and added, "Don't forget to clean." My face stiffened. Only then did I remember that to get Meng Ningxi to pull strings and put me on duty with Shen Qingye. I had promised her I would give the office a thorough cleaning. But now the situation was a bit awkward. That bunch is so lazy. They've barely cleaned anything besides their own desks. Go for it. I have faith in you. You can definitely give me back a brand new office. Meng Ningxi patted my shoulder expressionlessly as a sign of encouragement, then took a competition book and went to discuss it with someone. At this hour, I couldn't find anyone else to take my shift. I had no choice but to resign myself to packing my bag. But when I got to the office, Shen Qingye was already there, a cleaning rag in his hand. His back was to me as he wiped the windows. When he raised his arm, the hem of his washed-out school uniform lifted a little. The shape of his shoulder blades was clearly defined under the thin fabric. I was momentarily distracted. In a daze, the slender boy before me seemed to overlap with the man in my memory. Shen Qingye didn't like having outsiders in the house, so the housekeeper only came once a week for a deep clean. Daily cleaning, cooking, and chores were almost all done by Shen Qingye himself. I tried to help, thinking it might be a chance to improve our relationship. But Shen Qingye was always silent when he worked. I would chatter away, saying 10 sentences, and he would occasionally reply with one. Eventually, I couldn't stand it anymore and couldn't even be bothered to go back to that house. Until Shen Qingye died. I went back to pack his belongings and found that diary in the study. The diary was filled with so much. I paused, suddenly realizing something was wrong. Shen Qingye's diary was full. But why did I only remember the line, "I hate you the most"? I seemed to have forgotten something. The key to the equipment room is in. He stopped mid-sentence. Shen Qingye subconsciously walked towards me, but then stopped dead a few steps away. He looked down, his voice sounding faintly anxious. "You don't look well. Are you feeling sick?" I belatedly realized my palms were slick with a cold sweat. "I'm fine." I shook my head and walked past Shen Qingye, intending to get a broom. But Shen Qingye had already cleaned most of the office. I couldn't find anything to do and stood there awkwardly. The key to the equipment room is in the second drawer on the left. After you check it, organize the class meeting records. The patrol is during the 3rd period of evening study hall. I breathed a sigh of relief and said okay. There wasn't much to do. After finishing quickly, I took out a book and started reviewing, until a cup of hot water appeared in my line of sight, and a milk candy. Shen Qingye sat down across from me. He lowered his head to work on a test paper, his handsome brow bone revealed when his glasses slipped down slightly. The only sound in the office was the rustling of turning pages. In truth, it was the same kind of solitude when Shen Qingye tutored me. But perhaps because I was thinking about my past life, I found the silence unbearable. So I made an excuse to go to the restroom. "Sheng Ying." Shen Qingye suddenly called out to me. He glanced at the untouched water and candy on the table, his brow furrowing and then relaxing. Finally, as if he had made up his mind, he said in a low voice, "I have something to tell you. Let's talk when I get back." Shen Qingye paused. "Okay." I took the opportunity to slip out. While getting some air outside, I couldn't help but think about the diary, most of whose contents I had forgotten. But since I'd forgotten it, it probably wasn't that important, right? I tried to comfort myself with that thought. When I turned my head, I saw a female student who looked somewhat familiar. I think she was from the publicity department and had a bit of a crush on Shen Qingye. I didn't really want to go back, so I made an excuse that I had something to do and swapped duty with her. "But my school bag is still in there." "Don't worry, I'll pack it up and bring it out for you." It seemed she was really looking forward to being alone with Shen Qingye. I thanked her. When the girl came out with my bag, I remembered that Shen Qingye had wanted to talk to me about something, and I couldn't help but ask. Shen Qingye wasn't angry, was he? "Not at all," she said, turning to leave as if in a hurry to get back. "I told him you had something to do and left." He just nodded and went back to his test paper. As expected, Shen Qingye didn't care whether I stayed or left. What he wanted to say probably wasn't important either. I couldn't quite describe the feeling in my heart. I just said "oh" and took my bag back to the classroom. Meng Ningxi looked a little surprised to see me, but didn't say much. Patrol during the third period of evening study hall. As I was organizing my corrected mistakes, I vaguely sensed a heavy gaze on me. I looked up subconsciously. Shen Qingye was standing at the door. His dark eyes were staring straight at me, but he quickly looked away, writing something in his notebook. He was probably checking if I had skipped evening study hall. I guessed and went back to my work. Half a month later, almost everyone knew I had given up on pursuing Shen Qingye. Zai Yuanzheng muttered that I had finally changed my ways. He then patted his chest and promised he would introduce me to someone 1,000 times better than Shen Qingye. But before he could act, he was ready to sever ties with me. Because when the new monthly exam results came out, my score was a full 100 points higher than his. Zai Yuanzheng held my test paper as if he'd seen a ghost. After a long moment, he let out a whimper. "My dear niece, why are you abandoning your uncle too?" Looking at Zai Yuanzheng's teary, fried egg eyes, I patted his shoulder and said earnestly, "If you don't work harder, Ningxi will look down on you even more." It was only much later that I learned Zai Yuanzheng had a secret crush on Meng Ningxi. At these words, Zai Yuanzheng immediately wiped his tears and retorted defiantly, "Who would like her?" But not long after, he suddenly pulled out a small mirror, looked at himself, and turned to ask me uncertainly, "Am I really that bad?" I didn't say anything, just had Meng Ningxi send me her scores. After seeing her results, Zai Yuanzheng completely deflated. Then, as if injected with chicken blood, he declared he was going to start studying hard. At least he finally stopped pestering me about why I suddenly didn't like Shen Qingye anymore. I breathed a sigh of relief, but I never expected Lu Qiaqiu to approach me the next day. Her purpose was absurd. She asked me to get back together with Shen Qingye. "What are you talking about?" I even doubted my own ears. "I know you still have feelings for Qingye in your heart," Lu Qiaqiu said with conviction. "Otherwise, you wouldn't have had Zai Yuanzheng ruin his job. Now that Qingye has no job, he can only rely on you more." Rely. The word Lu Qiaqiu used made me frown in discomfort, but I didn't respond. Lu Qiaqiu, however, took my silence as agreement. She bit her lip, then feigned being hurt and dropped a bombshell. Actually, Qingye only sees me as a sister. You might not know, but I used to have a brother. He died saving Shen Qingye, and Qingye promised him he would take good care of me. But I know I'm not interested in your relationship." I suppressed my shock and interrupted her impatiently. Then I sneered, "Shen Qingye has a sour face all day. Why would I be so fixated on him? Besides, I've already said it, I really don't like Shen Qingye anymore." The sound of approaching footsteps stopped. Lu Qiaqiu's expression changed several times. The next second, she missed a step right in front of me and fell down the stairs. It was a hard fall. I clearly saw the expression on Lu Qiaqiu's face twist in pain. And Shen Qingye just happened to appear. "Brother Qingye." Lu Qiaqiu's eyes reddened, her voice choked with sobs. "It has nothing to do with Miss Sheng. I fell by accident." I couldn't be bothered with Lu Qiaqiu's clumsy acting. I just looked at Shen Qingye. After that day on duty, I hadn't seen him at school except for tutoring. How much did he see? How much of what I said did he hear? "Hey, apologize." The cold voice was like a sharp knife. I was in disbelief. "Apologize?" A flash of triumph crossed Lu Qiaqiu's eyes, but she still had to say, "This really has nothing to do with Miss Sheng. Brother Qingye, You don't have to force her to apologize to me for my sake. Hearing this, I could barely contain the rage in my chest. The mistrust I had faced since my rebirth, the guilt I wanted to atone for, the constant fear and anxiety. It all erupted at this moment. Why should I have to keep compromising like this? I laughed out of anger. Shen Qingye, are you out of your mind? Why should I? I was about to go downstairs and just commit the crime I was being accused of. But all my anger was extinguished by Shen Qingye's next words. Apologize to Sheng Ying. Apologize to me. I froze. Now it was Lu Qiachu's turn to be in disbelief. Me, I apologize. Brother Qingye, what are you talking about? She anxiously tried to grab his hand. Sheng Ying was the one who got angry and pushed me. Why are you asking me to? I'm not an idiot. Shen Qingye sidestepped her, his voice low and cold, but every word carried an undeniable authority. And she wouldn't be stupid enough to attack you in a crowded place. Lu Qiachu, this isn't the first time. The last sentence was laced with clear disappointment. Lu Qiachu fell silent. She lowered her head, her loose hair hiding the dark expression on her face. Shen Qingye, you believe me? Yes. Another silence. I couldn't help but feel a little guilty. Until Shen Qingye said again, she slandered you because of me. I apologize to you on her behalf. Why should you apologize on her behalf? The words slipped out of my mouth, but as soon as I said them, I had a vague feeling that this conversation was familiar. A hint of a smile flashed in Shen Qingye's eyes, but it was quickly swallowed by darkness. He bent down to help Lu Qiachu up, but was harshly slapped away. In the end, Lu Qiachu limped away. Shen Qingye followed silently behind her. I watched them leave, thinking about what Lu Qiachu had said earlier. I used to have a brother. He died saving Shen Qingye. Qingye promised him he would take good care of me. I never knew about any of this. Not even in my past life. For some reason, the large sum receipts tucked in the diary suddenly appeared in my mind. My chest felt heavy, as if a large stone was pressing down on it. Then came an inexplicable panic. Zai Yuanzheng. Just then, Zai Yuanzheng came to find me. I grabbed him, my voice urgent. Do me a favor. I had to find out why Lu Qiachu came to persuade us to get back together. Zai Yuanzheng was well connected, with an absurdly wide circle of friends. He agreed immediately. I thought investigating this would take some time, but Lu Qiachu couldn't wait and exposed herself. On Saturday afternoon, Zai Yuanzheng came to find me, his face terrifyingly grim. He threw a recording pen on my desk, as if it were something filthy. After a long moment, he gritted his teeth and squeezed out a sentence. I seriously want to call the cops. After a burst of static, Lu Qiachu's impatient voice came through. How was I supposed to know they'd suddenly fall out? That Sheng Ying used to pursue Shen Qingye so grandly, getting jealous every time I got close to him. I thought she liked him so much. Turns out these rich people are all fickle. Now she says she doesn't like him anymore, and my whole plan is ruined. And that useless Shen Qingye? I thought he could string that young miss along for a while longer, maybe get some more money. Now, not only did he not get any money, he even lost his job. He's so high and mighty, unwilling to ask for compensation. What am I supposed to do now? I still want to buy that new designer bag. You say Shen Qingye won't give me money? Impossible. As long as he carries the weight of my brother's life on his shoulders, he can't not give me money. That idiot Shen Qingye still thinks he owes my family, ha. Don't worry, I'll definitely find a way to get money out of him. I couldn't listen anymore, trembling with rage. Zai Yuanzheng said that the money Shen Qingye earned from his part-time jobs had three main uses. Part of it was to pay off debts. Part of it was to cover his grandfather's medical expenses. And the rest was given to Lu Qiachu. As for what he spent on himself, very, very little. I heard from his classmates that Shen Qingye has been borrowing some psychology books from the library recently. If it were me, I'd be depressed. Zai Yuanzheng suddenly shut up, then asked me, Ying, what do we do now? I didn't know what to do either. Shen Qingye never said anything. He kept everything hidden away. Other than the subsidy and the money he earned from working, he refused to take any more from others. He had always been a proud person, hiding all his feelings, never showing a hint of them, too proud for his own good. I thought resentfully and finally said, I'll give him this recording pen. But Lu Qiachu's last few words made me wary. I'm going to investigate the cause of Lu Qiachu's brother's death. Uncle, please help me ask around. Sure, leave it to me. I had planned to give Shen Qingye the recording pen when he came for tutoring, but the butler said Shen Qingye had taken leave. Leave? Yes, he said he wasn't feeling well. I had no choice but to suppress my anxiety. But I didn't expect that Shen Qingye's leave would turn into him disappearing for several days. His phone was off too. I was getting restless. After getting Shen Qingye's home address from a teacher, I planned to go check on him after evening study hall. But Meng Ningxi came over with a stack of notebooks. "What's this?" "Notes that Shen Qingye organized. He said he's sorry for having to cancel and asked me to give these to you. They target your weak areas." I didn't pay attention to the last part, just asked urgently, "You saw Shen Qingye? Where is he?" "He left the things with me and went. I don't know where he is now." I felt a pang of disappointment. Meng Ningxi, however, stared at me for a long while, then said, "To be honest, even if no one else thought so, I always felt you two would end up together." All my movement stopped. I looked up stunned. "What do you mean?" Meng Ningxi rested her chin on her hand and looked out the window. "When you first transferred here in your first year, you didn't know any of your classmates and didn't know how to make friends. Half a semester passed, and you were still all alone. You later said you were very grateful that I took the initiative to be your deskmate. But the truth is, Shen Qingye specifically came to bribe me with his notes." "Bribe you?" She hummed in affirmation. "Surprising, right? Shen Qingye and I were actually elementary and middle school classmates, but we were never close. To be precise, Shen Qingye wasn't close to anyone. But he came to me that day and said he hoped I could be your deskmate. I asked him why. He said, no one wants to be the odd one out." Meng Ningxi paused, then smiled. I knew he was talking about himself. "But Shen Qingye is different from you. He had no choice. And that time during the social practice trip, you accidentally lost your fountain pen. It wasn't me who found it. It was Shen Qingye, who went looking for it at night with a flashlight and almost got caught by the patrolling teacher. There were many other things, but he wouldn't let me say." Meng Ningxi's words hit me like a heavy stone thrown into a calm pond. I was so stunned I couldn't react for a long time, only able to murmur, "I never knew." "Of course you didn't know." Meng Ningxi criticized me bluntly. "Shen Qingye doesn't talk, and he wouldn't let me tell you, so of course you didn't know anything." "Then why wouldn't he tell me?" I stubbornly wanted an answer. But Meng Ningxi said, "Sheng Ying, not all feelings of love get the chance to be spoken aloud. Shen Qingye is used to suppressing, used to enduring this miserable life. He has walked this path alone for too long, so when someone suddenly falls from the sky and says they'll walk with him, he needs a very, very long time to convince himself to accept it. He's also used to hiding his feelings. In all the time I've known him, I've rarely seen any rich expressions on his face. But Sheng Ying." She seemed to recall something amusing, her eyes curving slyly. "During the sports meet, you fell while running. I personally saw Shen Qingye jump straight down from the stands. But halfway there, he saw Zai Yuanzheng carrying you to the infirmary, so he had to pretend he was just passing by. It was the first time I saw Shen Qingye look so flustered and helpless, and he wouldn't let me mention it. That was a side of Shen Qingye I had never known. He had indeed hidden it well. So well that I had always thought he hated me." My throat suddenly tightened, and I asked hoarsely, "Then why are you telling me now?" "I got an early admission offer. Even if Shen Qingye wants to blame me, he won't be able to find me." Meng Ningxi reached out and ruffled my hair, her voice suddenly softening. "Besides, not saying anything is unfair to you, and to him." Meng Ningxi said Shen Qingye hadn't always been so withdrawn. It started after his mother passed away. She thought for a moment, then finally said, "He seems to think he's cursed with bad luck." Bad luck. Those two words kept circling in my mind, until I was standing at the door of a hospital room. Shen Qingye seemed to have gotten thinner again. He deftly changed his grandfather's soiled clothes and emptied the bedpan. After everything was cleaned up, Shen Qingye sat down to eat the already cold congee. But he hadn't had more than a few sips before the old man, who had been lying quietly, suddenly shot up and knocked the bowl from his hand. Then, as Shen Qingye stood up to clean, the old man suddenly grabbed his arm and bit down hard. So hard that blood instantly seeped out. His exposed forearm was covered in scabbed-over wounds. But Shen Qingye just stood there, not even frowning, as if he was long used to it. I hurriedly called a nurse to intervene and pulled Shen Qingye away from the bed. The nurse didn't seem surprised either. "You'll be happy when your grandson gets fed up and leaves, and there's no one to serve you, won't you?" "Good riddance." Shen Qingye's grandfather's eyelids drooped as he said sarcastically, "I get annoyed just looking at him. And he's eating congee? What right does he have to eat anything?" Another string of foul-mouthed curses followed. The old man only shut up after the nurse threatened to kick him out if he disturbed the other patients again. But he still glared fiercely at Shen Qingye. And from beginning to end, Shen Qingye stood there silently, like a lifeless statue. Only when I was about to take him to get his wound treated did he seem to snap out of it. His eyelashes trembled slightly. He asked me, "Why are you here? If I hadn't come, you'd be dead." I was both angry and anxious. In my past life, Shen Qingye's grandfather had died early. Shen Qingye hadn't spent so much time in the hospital taking care of him, so I never knew his grandfather's attitude towards him was so vile. "I won't die." Shen Qingye even had the heart to curl his lips into a faint smile. "He can't torment me to death. You know he's tormenting you and you still stay to take care of him. Shen Qingye, are you insane?" Shen Qingye said no more. After the wound on his arm was treated, he told me to go back. "I might have to break my promise to President Sheng. I'll pay back the money. I've also organized the key review points in those notes. Remember to look at them. If there's anything you don't understand, you can ask Meng Ningxi." The pale light of the corridor fell on Shen Qingye's face, but not a single ray of light reached his eyes. His tone was extremely calm, so calm that the panic in my heart grew, and I grabbed his hand without a second thought. "What about you? It's your final year of high school. Don't you need to study? Don't you want to go to university?" "Me?" Shen Qingye was taken aback. He seemed to only now remember to consider himself, saying slowly, "I can do it in the hospital." "You're lying to me again." I cut him off, trying to forcibly drag him away. "That old man will never give you time to study. He just wants to torture you. He's happy when you're miserable. Come with me, right now. If you're really worried, I'll pay for a caregiver for him." But he didn't budge. Shen Qingye lowered his eyes, his gaze falling on our clasped hands. "Sheng Ying," he called my name softly, his voice seeming to come from far away. "That's my grandfather." A calm statement, but I understood his unspoken meaning. That was his only remaining family. His mother was dead, and his debt-ridden father was nowhere to be found. He only had this one relative. I've had bad luck my whole life. It seems like whatever I do, I always fall a little short. Whatever I want, whatever I hope for, it never comes true. The warmth in my hand faded bit by bit. Shen Qingye pushed me away, his tone still gentle. "So you should stay away from me, further away, even further. It would be best if you never had anything to do with me." But his voice was trembling uncontrollably, so obviously that even I noticed. And so the tide of bitterness in my chest surged and roared. I looked at Shen Qingye, and suddenly remembered what Meng Ningxi had said. He seems to think he's cursed with bad luck. To hell with luck. Lu Qiaqiu had once visited the hospital under the guise of seeing him. Not long after, the previous caregiver was driven away. Shen Qingye was forced to stay and serve him. This hadn't happened in my past life, so it was related to me. The patients and their families in the same ward had all witnessed the grandfather's appallingly vile behavior. When I went over, an older woman even grabbed my arm and said, "Girl, you're that young man's classmate, right? Go talk to him. How can a student not stay in school to study? He shouldn't stay here to take care of this old man. He's a venomous snake. He's miserable, so he won't let the younger generation have it easy either. Taking care of him won't earn any gratitude." I nodded and said I would. The next day, I had him moved to a private room. When the old man erupted again and pointed his finger at Shen Qingye's nose, cursing, I had my bodyguards take over Shen Qingye's work and forcibly take him away. "These are the test papers and review questions teacher Song asked me to bring you. She said it's fine if you don't come, but you have to finish these." Shen Qingye's struggles lessened. "Shen Qingye," I stared into his eyes, "if you want to rot in this hospital, just say the word. If you say no, even once, I won't stop you." Shen Qingye lowered his head. I couldn't see the expression on his face. "You clearly..." After a long moment, his voice was hoarse, tinged with a kind of self-destructive emotion. "You clearly said you wouldn't like me anymore. I'm here as a friend now. It doesn't matter if you don't admit it," I said, then lowered my head and started on a test paper. Shen Qingye stood for a while. Finally, he sat down across from me. The old man wasn't without his attempts to disrupt Shen Qingye's studies, but whenever he made a sound, the bodyguard standing beside him would immediately glare fiercely back. He was a bully who preyed on the weak, and after a few times, he gave up. Shen Qingye was able to finish a set of papers smoothly. The crease between his brows softened slightly. "I'll help you take these to teacher Song to be checked." I collected Shen Qingye's papers and added, "I won't be coming tomorrow." The hand clutching the pen tightened abruptly. Shen Qingye's breath hitched for a moment, but quickly returned to normal. He nodded. "It's better if you don't. This place isn't." "Shen Qingye, being honest won't kill you." I glanced at him and snorted. "If you want me to come, just say so." Perhaps because I had already seen him at his most vulnerable, Shen Qingye simply stopped talking. I stared at the tips of his flushed ears and curved my lips. Zai Yuanzhang is coming tomorrow. He heard you're a great tutor and is coming with ulterior motives. Remember to treat him well. Shen Qingye looked up, a clear look of astonishment in his eyes. The second day, it was Zai Yuanzhang. The third day, Meng Ningxi. The fourth day, their class president. The fifth day, me. We took turns. The bodyguards stayed in the room, working in shifts. After more than a week, Shen Qingye successfully caught up with his studies, and the old man's spirits had dampened considerably. While Shen Qingye was out getting hot water, the old man called out to me for the first time. But the words that came out were not so pleasant. He killed his mother. I was organizing my corrected mistakes and ignored him. The old man wasn't annoyed. He chuckled and continued on his own. If he hadn't insisted on going out to play with his friends, his mother wouldn't have died in a car crash on the way to pick him up. My son wouldn't have fallen into despair, even disappearing, not even coming to see his old man now. And I wouldn't have gotten this disease. Your son got addicted to gambling long ago, lost all the family's money, and disappeared to escape his debts. He doesn't visit you because he's not filial. You getting sick is karma. What does any of that have to do with Shen Qingye? I interrupted him without looking up, the tip of my pen scratching a deep mark on the paper. The old man's face turned ashen. What do you know, if it weren't for this jinx? But it's this jinx you speak of who is paying for your expensive daily medical bills. Otherwise, you'd be long dead. It's also this deserving grandson of yours who sleeps only a few hours a day to juggle taking care of you and studying. I stood up and looked at him, sneering. You want to crush him, don't you? You want Shen Qingye to rot in this hospital with you, don't you? Too bad. He's too outstanding. Even the teachers, after seeing his papers from this period, said that as long as he keeps it up, getting into a top university is no problem at all. You want to destroy him, but I won't let you have your way. I'm going to make you watch the person you most want to destroy become better and better in a place you can never reach. The old man's face turned livid with anger. His shriveled lips trembled, making a ha-ha sound, but he couldn't form a complete sentence. I snorted and sat back down. After a long while, Shen Qingye returned to the room, his face a little pale. He calmly walked to the bedside to add water to the cup, his hand trembling faintly. I looked at his back. What took you so long to get water? There was no hot water, so I waited a bit. I said oh, and didn't think much of it. Shen Qingye sat down across from me. The only sound in the room was the rustling of paper. But this quiet was soon broken. Yo, you little brat, you actually have money to put this old coot in a private room. The voice was sharp and grating. A middle-aged man with a stubbly face suddenly burst in. His cloudy, bloodshot eyes swept over me. He let out a malicious laugh. This must be the rich young miss that Qingye mentioned, right? Heard the young miss has taken a fancy to my little brat. Good, good, then we'll be family from now on, ha ha ha. I frowned at his words. I had never seen this man before, but he seemed vaguely familiar. And Shen Qingye almost instantly stood in front of me. He ignored the man, shoved the papers into my hand, and said in a low voice, "You should go back first." I was still thinking about the Qingye the man had mentioned. It was Lu Qingye again, of course. What's the big deal? Shen Liang, seeing this, reached out to push Shen Qingye aside, extremely displeased. But his words were, "It's not every day a classmate is willing to be friends with you. What's wrong with letting family take a look? Get lost." Shen Qingye stared at the man, hissing each word, "Or I'll kill you." Shen Liang laughed as if he'd heard the world's greatest joke, doubling over. He completely ignored Shen Qingye and grinned at me. "Just 1 million, and you can take this brat to Erg." Before he could finish, Shen Qingye's fist had already smashed into his face. The punch was thrown with all his might. Shen Liang staggered back a few steps, knocking over the IV stand. The medicine bottle shattered on the floor. No one had expected it. Shen Qingye attacked like his life depended on it, his movements fast and vicious. Like a cornered beast. The bodyguards rushed to restrain him, but even with such a commotion, the old man just lay on the bed, his eyes tightly shut, not making a sound. Until in the chaos, Shen Liang, cursing, suddenly rushed towards me. A silver glint flashed in his hand. The man's face was twisted in a savage grin. "If I can't have a good life, neither can you." I stood frozen. The blade of the knife glinted coldly under the pale lights. Shen Liang was too fast, and he was too close. The bodyguards had no time to react. "Go to hell." His expression was contorted, as the tip of the knife stabbed straight towards my chest. but the expected pain never came. Squish! The sound of a blade piercing flesh was horribly clear. A warm hand suddenly covered my eyes, and the world plunged into darkness. I heard Shen Qingye's breathing suddenly grow heavy beside my ear, mixed with a suppressed grunt of pain. "Don't look," he said. "Don't be afraid. Be good, close your eyes. It'll be all better after a nap." The screech of sudden breaking, and a man's triumphant, crazed laughter. Finally, all sounds faded like a receding tide. The world returned to a dead silence. Shen Qingye, the sense of familiarity, finally found its source. I subconsciously grabbed Shen Qingye's arm, my whole body shaking from extreme fear. "You're not allowed to die. I forbid you to die, do you hear me?" My voice was a near desperate, choked sob. The patient has lost the will to live. The perpetrator was his own father, who could accept something like that. Sigh, every family has its own troubles. My condolences, madam. February 15th. The cat is having kittens. Awaying has been very nervous these past few days, preparing a lot of things in advance. I hope the birth goes smoothly. Awaying is paying too much attention to it. I'm a little unhappy, but I can bear it. February 17th. Awaying angrily asked me today if I hate the cat, why I never pet it or play with it. Then she angrily asked why I wasn't saying anything if I was admitting it, but I didn't know what to say. I actually like the cat very much. February 20th. Awaying came home late today and the automatic feeder was broken. The cat was meowing from hunger. I fed it. The cat rubbed against me a few times. No wonder Awaying likes petting cats so much. February 22nd. The cat had a difficult birth. One kitten died. It's my fault. If only I hadn't touched it. March 18th. Awaying is sick again. Is it because I've been a bit clingy these past few days? Why can't I control myself? March 19th. Awaying's cold has gotten worse. Shen Qingye, are you trying to kill her? Stay away from her. April 5th. Lu Qiachu came to see me. I know I owe a life after all. She asked for a sum of money. This isn't the end, but I kept the receipt. This is my debt. It has nothing to do with Awaying. April 16th. Shen Liang appeared. He's been gone for 3 years. Why did he have to show up now? Never mind, Awaying is coming home today. I need to prepare her favorite dishes. May 16th. Awaying got drunk. She asked if I hated her. I said no. She asked again if I don't hate her. Why have I never said I like her? I can't say it. May 20th. Awaying mentioned divorce today. Leaving me is a good thing. I had auditory hallucinations again today. They were telling me to die, but I can't die yet. I have to check out the person she's found. I don't trust them. Awaying. Awaying. Awaying, 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 Awaying. Sheng Ying, I hate you the most. Fortunately, the knife had ended up in Shen Qingye's shoulder. I had been staring at him ever since he came out of the emergency room. I didn't even blink, afraid he would disappear the next second. My staring made Shen Qingye flush, red from head to toe. Finally, he couldn't take it anymore and turned his face away, his voice a low, almost pleading whisper. Stop looking. I ignored him. Shen Qingye wanted to go back, but I forcefully kept him in the hospital room to rest. He fell silent. Where's Shen Liang? We called the police. He was taken away. He got off easy. Yes. I coaxed Shen Qingye to rest, then threatened him. If you don't sleep, I'll keep staring at you until you fall asleep. The man who had just calmed down instantly turned completely red again. He sighed helplessly and finally relented, but his eyes remained open. His dark pupils reflected the pale light of the hospital room, as if he were afraid that closing them would plunge him into a nightmare. I reached out my hand, just like a moment ago, just like in my past life, and gently covered his eyes. Close your eyes, I commanded. His eyelashes brushed against my palm, a ticklish sensation. Shen Qingye finally closed his eyes. However, not long after, a commotion came from outside the room. The person on the bed listened quietly for a while. With his eyes still closed, he asked me, did someone jump off the building? You always run into people who can't see a way out in a hospital. I paused, then added, it's just some stranger. Shen Qingye hummed in agreement and didn't ask any more questions. His breathing soon became steady. I glanced down at my phone. There was a text message from the bodyguard. Shen Sen jumped off the building, pulling Shen Liang with him. So the old man's name was Shen Sen. Long press. Delete. Indeed, a stranger. We were supposed to call the police. But the old man, who had been unresponsive until then, suddenly stopped the bodyguards. After a long silence, he looked up and asked me, this illness of mine, can it be cured? I said expressionlessly, No cure, just wait for death. Then let me trade a secret for a little time with my son. He let out a sigh of relief, as if a heavy burden had been lifted. He said calmly, just half an hour. After half an hour, you can have him. Why should I agree to that? His father called him a jinx since he was a child, saying he cursed his grandmother to death shortly after he was born. Then he caused his mother's death. But actually, his mother's death had nothing to do with him. I agreed. I gave Shen Sen half an hour. He took Shen Liang to the rooftop, saying the father and son needed to talk alone. The bodyguards waited at the door. In the end, Shen Sen jumped off the roof, taking Shen Liang with him. Neither of them survived. However, this matter couldn't be hidden from Shen Qingye for long. One afternoon, he wasn't in his room. I found him on the rooftop. Shen Qingye stood at the edge of the railing, his thin hospital gown flapping in the wind. Is this where they jumped from? He didn't turn around, just said to himself, it's a pity I didn't get to see it. They really got off easy. Shen Qingye, I called him, come here. Shen Qingye was obedient and walked over. I gripped his hand tightly, so hard that my own hand hurt. But Shen Qingye laughed. He comforted me softly. I won't jump. I haven't gotten into university yet. I was so scared, I was momentarily speechless. I could only vent by grabbing his hand and biting down hard. Gently, Shen Qingye touched my hair with his other hand, but it was a fleeting touch. He smiled and coaxed me. It hurts. So the pressure of my bite lessened, but I still didn't let go. Shen Qingye let me do as I pleased. But the smile on his face slowly faded. He seemed to be staring into a void, lost in thought. After a long while, he said softly, Sheng Ying, I have no family left. His voice was so soft that the wind on the rooftop shattered it as soon as it left his lips. I know they didn't like me. When I was little, if the neighbor's kid got third place, his family would happily take him out for good food and fun. But no matter how many times I came home with first place, Shen Liang would scoff and say, what's the use of good grades? You're still the rotten seed of a gambler. Later, he started suspecting I wasn't his son. He suspected my mom cheated on him. He said no one in the old Shen family could study, so why were my grades so good? So he would drink, and after drinking, he would beat me, beat my mom, and then he would cry and apologize. But my mom was good to me. She would cook a lot of delicious food, and she would piece together my torn-up award certificates, saying that once I got into university, she could enjoy a good life with me. This time, Shen Qingye paused for a long time. He seemed to be mentally preparing himself. Then, bit by bit, he tore open the already scabbed-over wound, presenting it to me, bloody and raw. I was actually always obedient. I knew I wasn't welcome in that house, so I never asked for much. That time I won first place in a competition. Shen Liang wasn't home, and my mom asked me what I wanted as a reward. I said a friend had invited me to hang out, and could I go with him? I met him in the competition, and he was the first friend I ever made. Shen Qingye's voice suddenly became exceptionally hoarse, but he continued to narrate calmly. My mom agreed. She told me to have fun, but she got into a car accident on her way to pick me up. She died. Maybe I really am cursed to be a jinx. People who are good to me don't live long. Lu Qiachu's brother, too. If it wasn't for saving me, he wouldn't have died. You're not. I finally found my voice. I cupped his face with both hands, forcing him to meet my eyes. I'm good to you, but I'm alive and well right now, and I will definitely live a long life. And your mom didn't die because she was picking you up. She was trying to abandon you and escape that family that day. All her things were packed. She got into a car accident on the way. Shen Qingye, listen carefully, her death had nothing to do with you. Shen Qingye's pupils contracted violently. He looked as if he had heard something utterly absurd and couldn't react for a long time. Then his breathing became rapid. And Lu Zia didn't die to save you. He deliberately took you to the river. He knew you couldn't swim, so he wanted to pretend to save you so you would be indebted to him, because he owed a huge debt and he planned to make you pay it for him. I took out 2 recording pens. One was Shen Sen's. The other was Lu Qiachu's. Shen Qingye calmed down. He turned on the recording pens, listening to them over and over again, until the last bit of battery was drained. I stayed by his side, listening with him over and over again. Sheng Ying. The recording pens were stuffed into his pocket. He suddenly called my name, asking blankly, how can someone's life be such a joke? It was a casual question. Perhaps he wasn't expecting an answer. Sometimes fate is just a bastard. But I still thought about it seriously and said, but it can't define who you are, so you can rebel as much as you want. It really is a bastard. Shen Qingye let out a low laugh. The laughter grew louder. Finally, it turned into heart-wrenching dry heaves. He hunched over, as if trying to vomit up his internal organs. Dusk fell, and the last ray of sunset gilded the side of his face in gold. Shen Qingye, my mom ran away too. I tilted my head up to watch the sunset with him. She didn't love my dad or me, so she left me with my dad early on and left by herself. But I'm luckier than you. My dad loves me very much. But he's too busy, and he's a clumsy man. So since I was little, his way of loving me was to give me everything he had without reservation, sometimes without even asking if I wanted it or was willing to take it. I got used to it, and I learned to treat the people I like in the same way. It might be a bit annoying, but until you learn to be brave, you'll just have to put up with it. Shen Qingye didn't say anything, until I got up impatiently and held out my hand. The fish soup I brought is cold. I'm hungry. Do you want to go down and eat? He looked up at me. Fine, don't eat then. I pretended to pull my hand back, but the next second it was caught. First, a tentative touch of fingertips. Then, little by little, a firm grip. I waited patiently. Okay. I didn't know which question he was answering. Shen Qingye looked down, the tips of his ears turning red. He said in a low voice, I'm hungry. Then let's go eat. Nothing is more important than eating. Okay. Shen Qingye was a very strong person. I had always known that. Shen Qingye didn't let me interfere further with Lu Qiachu's matter. I only knew that he got most of his money back, and Lu Qiachu dropped out of school. Later, Zai Yuanzhang told me that Lu Qiachu had somehow gotten into trouble with a group of thugs. After her arms and legs were broken, her mother took her back to their hometown. He lamented, wicked people get their just deserts. My brother has finally gotten his revenge. Ever since Shen Qingye had tutored Zai Yuanzhang and helped him raise his score by 50 points, Zai Yuanzhang's opinion of him had completely changed. He was now firmly convinced that this was his brother from another mother. He also believed his brother was a poor, simple-minded soul with a tragic background. No one was allowed to speak ill of him. I glanced at Zai Yuanzhang, not having the heart to tell him that this was 99% his good brother's doing. Shen Qingye returned to school. His studies hadn't fallen behind at all. In fact, because he no longer needed to work part-time, Shen Qingye snatched the top rank in the grade from Meng Ningxi several times, which made her give him the cold shoulder for a while. Life went smoothly until the college entrance exam results came out. Zai Yuanzhang finally managed to get into a university in the same city as Meng Ningxi. He was so excited that he hugged Shen Qingye and cried for a long time. The three of them were in the same city, and I, according to my father's arrangements, went abroad. After my mother left, my father always felt he had wronged me, so he doted on me excessively. After learning that I was almost injured because of Shen Qingye, he held a huge grudge against him. He had even arranged everything for me long in advance. I didn't refuse, because that was also one of my regrets from my past life. On the day I left, even Meng Ningxi, who was in City A, rushed back to see me off. Zai Yuanzhang tearfully gripped my hand, wanting to say a few more words, but was dragged away by Meng Ningxi by the collar. I thought you'd be the most talkative one today. I deliberately pretended to be dissatisfied, frowning and shaking my head. Shen Qingye, I'm very disappointed in you. Shen Qingye was amused by me. Unlike in his past life, in this life, he seemed to smile easily in front of me. Then, as an apology, I'll tell you a secret. What secret? I was instantly interested. One day during the summer vacation of our second year, I suddenly wanted to see you. How much? Probably enough to beg Meng Ningxi to take me into the villa complex, to wait outside your gate for a chance to see you. But you were on vacation abroad at the time. Meng Ningxi asked me, are you still going to see her? Shen Qingye paused, a hint of helplessness in his eyes. How could I? I had just paid off a little debt, and all the money I had wasn't even enough to buy a plane ticket. At that moment, I knew I was too far away from you, so far that I might never be able to catch up even if I tried my best my whole life. This was indeed a secret I didn't know. The boarding announcement sounded. I'm going abroad now, and I don't know when I'll be back. I took a deep breath. My heartbeat gradually quickened. I stared at Shen Qingye and asked seriously, then will you save up enough for a plane ticket in the future? As I waited, the noisy chatter of the airport seemed to fade away. And this time, I finally got Shen Qingye's answer. He said, more than one. Sheng Ying, I like you. The kind of like that is like you the most. The love I had glimpsed from the diary, finally, at this moment, saw the light of day. 15 Shen Qingye's extra. The first thing Shen Qingye did when he got home was start cooking. The second thing was to clean the house. The last thing was to sit on the sofa and quietly wait for Sheng Ying to come home. He waited until it was dark. She probably wasn't coming back again. Shen Qingye thought. There was no one to blame. No one else could stand living with someone like him. A Ying was already very good. He sighed and stood up to clear the dishes from the table. But just as he moved, he heard the sound of the lock turning. Shen Qingye's eyes lit up instantly. It's a Ying. But today's a Ying was strange. Her face was pale, her eyes were red. Was she bullied? Shen Qingye frowned. He subconsciously went up to ask. But Sheng Ying walked straight through his body and headed for the study. Through his body. Shen Qingye was stunned. It took him a long moment to realize. Oh, so I'm already dead. This experience of being a soul after death was novel. But soon, Shen Qingye's mind was filled with a Ying again. Was a Ying crying because of him? Shen Qingye was a little curious, so he followed her. And then, he witnessed the socially fatal scene of Sheng Ying opening his diary. Shen Qingye, his entire soul body turned red from foot to head. If you were to ask him what his biggest regret was, the current Shen Qingye would answer without hesitation. Not burning that diary. A Ying don't look. But Sheng Ying didn't stop. She read it page by page, very seriously. Tears rolled down her cheeks. Shen Qingye instantly forgot his shyness and fumbled to wipe away her tears. His voice even carried a hint of pleading. A Ying, please don't cry, okay? But he had forgotten again that he was already dead. So the tears passed through his palm, soaking the pages one by one. Sheng Ying couldn't hear his voice either, so she was still crying. When she was tired of crying, she hugged the diary and sat in a corner of the study. She asked in a very small voice, Shen Qingye, why do you hate me the most? She had seen the last page. Because she couldn't hear him, this time Shen Qingye answered her question with utmost seriousness. Because I love you the most. But it seemed that those he liked, and those who liked him, never had a good end. So let's change it to hate. Shen Qingye had thought that since he was dead, he might as well take the opportunity to say all the things he hadn't said over the years. But then he worried. What if his bad luck was so potent it affected his soul state? So he only dared to say, I love you once. Even his hugs were just ethereal embraces. Afraid of tainting a Ying with his bad luck. They say the 3 great joys in life are promotion, wealth, and a dead husband. Shen Qingye looked down at the sleeping Sheng Ying and said softly and seriously, you've already got 2 of them, so don't be sad. But Sheng Ying didn't listen at all. She stubbornly wanted to know the whole truth. Shen Qingye could only follow her helplessly, watching her grow silent after learning everything, his heart aching with powerlessness. What he said is fake. I wasn't that miserable back then. She's not my one true love. I've already paid back all the debts I owed. A Ying, you have to throw those receipts right in her face. During that time, Shen Qingye spoke more than he had in his entire life, as if he was paying back the debt from when Sheng Ying used to call him a silent gourd. Now he was here to repay it. But the creditor, Sheng Ying, couldn't hear or see him. She continued to do what she wanted to do. Then, on an ordinary afternoon, Sheng Ying avenged Shen Qingye. Let's start over. Shen Qingye heard himself say, but he didn't know who he was talking to. Start over, and don't come near me again. Don't like me anymore. Don't have anything to do with me ever again. She only needs to remember that I hate her the most. Shen Qingye hates Sheng Ying the most. I love her, but she doesn't need to know.